A lot of
2020.
people apparently are liking this, so I'm curious. Run, bitches, run! You don't think it's good? I heard a lot of people were liking it. Beetlejuice.
What are we even watching?
I made a mistake about it.
2024 really has been a year for resurrecting dead IPs with sequels and remakes that nobody really
Here we
asked
go.
for
I'm gonna
or
eat
wanted.
my
Whether it's
lot
possibly
of
forgettable
dinner set.
popcorn movies like
He's
Twisters,
so negative,
noble
I would
failures
say.
like Alien Romulus, or absolute garbage like The Crow, it really has been a mixed bag of successes and failures this year. But which one is Beetlejuice 2? Does it do justice to the classic 1988 original, or is it just another embarrassing attempt to milk an old IP for a quick profit?
Does he ever?
Well,
I
weirdly
actually
enough,
don't think I've watched one from him where he's liked it. You know what I mean? Like,
I think it's a bit of both. As a sequel to the original movie, it's a decent enough effort that mixes Tim Burton's usual gothic fairy tale style with over-the-top visual gags to deliver something that's pretty unique in modern cinema. Michael Keaton hasn't missed a beat in 35 years and slips right back into the role of Beetlejuice like it was yesterday, while Jenna Ortega provides a nice deadpan counterpoint that sparks well off him. There's some decent moment-to-moment gags and plenty of little callbacks to the original, some of which work better than others. That being said, the
character
movie
that
suffers
died?
from a cluttered script that's weighed down by far too many characters and subplots and doesn't seem to know who or what to focus on. Far too much time is wasted on a character who isn't even in the movie, and in terms of actual performances, well, let's just say that some of the actors
I like the original Beetlejuice. Hey, Lord Toad, welcome in.
have aged better than others. Anyway, I've dicked around with my intro long enough. Let's get this review underway properly.
Go ahead, Barbara, say it.
Beetlejuice!
So the movie kicks off in the present day, where Lydia's now a successful talk show host specialising in the paranormal. All good, you might think, except that she's addicted to prescription meds, estranged from her daughter Astrid, controlled by her manipulative boyfriend, and haunted by visions of Beetlejuice. Things soon go from bad to worse when she finds out that her father Charles was killed in a plane crash, and so the family converges on their old home in Winter River for the funeral. This is where Astrid meets a suspicious
Ex-bride basically becomes a throwaway with no resolution. Okay, interesting.
nice and well-adjusted local teenager named Rory and quickly falls head over heels for him. Unfortunately, she eventually
Romance.
discovers that he's actually a ghost that only she can see, and the only way that they can be together is if she crosses over into the afterlife to bring him back to the real world. But wouldn't you know it, it was all a trick so that he could swap places with her. This forces Lydia to summon Beetlejuice for help, but only on the condition that he gets to marry her when this is all over, because he's also on the run from his vengeful ex-wife who wants to suck the soul out of his body or something.
Vengeful ex-wife. Ex-wives, am I right?
Oh yeah, and while all this is going on, Delia accidentally kills herself with poisonous snakes while doing some stupid ritual at her husband's grave. There's also a dead movie star acting as a paranormal police detective, a jealous boyfriend pulling strings behind the scenes, and the escape of a bunch of employees from the afterlife to deal with. So if you haven't guessed it by now, there's quite a lot going on in this movie, and not all of it is good or necessary. And I think really this is one of the film's biggest problems. There's so many subplots and different characters that most of them don't get anything like the attention they need. Monica Bellucci's Dolores is built up as the big antagonist of the movie, but she's barely on screen for more than 30 seconds at a time before the action jumps somewhere else, and it got to the point where I kind of forgot she was even in the film after a while. Willem Dafoe hams it up in a role that doesn't have any clear purpose in the story and just kind of exists for its own sake. He has like one gag that he keeps playing over and over, and honestly, it stopped being
Wives. Oh my god, guys.
funny after like the first time. There's also a subplot about Lydia's ex-husband who died, which is so underdeveloped that he's barely even mentioned, and so the big payoff near the end falls flat because I've never even seen the guy before. Also, it's completely overridden
Alleged mum. What?
by the death of Charles.
Who's taking
which
care of her daughter then?
functionally does
If not
exactly
her.
the same thing in terms of character motivations and eats up a shit ton of screen time in the process with basically no payoff because let's just say the actor turned out to be a very bad person in the real world. The original movie was tight and efficient at just
Well,
over
to be fair,
90 minutes long.
Beetlejuice was kind of always a creep. Like, oh, boarding school, of course. Oh my god. Which I find weird seeing she, in the first movie, she was all about wanting her parents to be more involved in her, with her. So, but I guess a lot of people redo their parents' mistakes, but yeah, it's a bit of a...
Long, with every scene and character contributing something to the story and not a moment of screen time wasted. Beetlejuice 2, on the other hand, feels bloated and chaotic, struggling under the weight of too many ideas and extraneous subplots, unable to decide on a core narrative to focus on, and taking way too long to get
But
going.
the thing is, the movie, Beetlejuice was a creep in the first movie, but the movie was like, he's a creep. You know, like, they made it like quite aware that the movie, he's a creep, he's a weirdo, no one likes him kind of thing, and that's a fine way to do a creep.
Shit, man, even Beetlejuice himself doesn't really show up in force until like 40 minutes into the movie, and that's where it actually comes alive for the first time. Michael Keaton might be well into his 70s by now, but holy shit, you'd never know it. The guy's just as high energy and over the top as he was 35 years ago. His delivery
They were playing him more like a main character, and I was like curious what they were actually going to do with him, seeing he was like the bad guy.
Perfect, and every moment that he's on screen is a joy to watch. He's neatly balanced out by Jenna Ortega, who delivers her usual deadpan performance, but always seems to know just when to drop in little moments of humanity.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad they recast him, because he was like, when they kicked him out, I would like either kill him off or recast if he's a creepy fuck.
And vulnerability, portraying a teenage girl who's kind of lonely and trying to reconnect with her family instead of just being a carbon copy of Lydia from the first movie. On that subject though, while it's nice to see Winona Ryder going through a career resurgence, fuck me, somebody really should have gotten her to rewatch the original movie, because she now talks and acts like a completely different character. Yeah, she's got the same stupid hairstyle and there's a superficial attempt to make her look and dress the same, but
I don't get the idea of giving them the same hairstyle. It's been like 30 years. Why would she have the same haircut?
Ryder plays her more like Joyce from Stranger Things than Lydia from the first film.
I know they killed them off. That's why I said I prefer when they either kill off the characters or recast them when they're weirdos.
There's a vague hint that maybe she's going through a midlife crisis and is trying to
Toby is the eye tracker.
rediscover her old self, but like so many other storylines in this movie, it's not given enough time and attention to actually get the audience invested. And Jesus Christ, bringing Catherine O'Hara back for this film was a huge
you had the
mistake.
same haircut the entire life? Why, bro?
Not only is her character gratingly annoying and adds nothing to the narrative except to make stupid decisions at every opportunity, but she delivers the kind of hysterical, scenery-tuned performance that makes Nick Cage look like a model of subtle restraint. Yeah, I know Delia's meant to be some kind of wacky New York socialite, but damn man, she was never this bad in the original. You could
Dude, Delulu, the whole point is she was supposed to be weird and outrageous and quite annoying. I've rewatched the original recently with my nephew. He loved it, which is funny because he likes weird, like, horror-y things, but not too horror-y. And, like, I would say she is, like, always been like that.
honestly have cut her and her stupid subplot with Charles out of the entire film and would have lost nothing of value. Ultimately, despite some decent visual effects, solid direction and fun performances by a cast that mostly does their best with the material, I can't shake the feeling that Beetlejuice 2 is more like several potential movies jammed together into one script. A bunch of disjointed
I'm bored my entire life. Oh my god.
ideas and plot lines that never quite meshes together into a cohesive narrative. A slightly disappointing sequel that really doesn't live up to its predecessor. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.
Okay, let's watch someone else's review because I'm curious what they say in comparison. Comparison? He's usually a bit more positive in his negativity.
Hardest part of this review?
Yeah, slightly
Not
disappointing
saying his
is
name
better
3
than bad,
times,
for real.
When the title is 2. Got my work cut out for me, so here we go. So Beetlejuice Beetlejuice is the sequel to the original cult classic of half of the same name. This time around there's been a tragedy and
Half of the same name, sorry. It wasn't that funny, but I found it that funny. Yeah.
the Dietz family, so all the Dietzes
I
gather.
do wish they wouldn't rehash. I really feel like Beetlejuice was one of those series that didn't need a sequel, but apparently the guy who wrote it, his career, everyone was saying is a bit like wonky right now, so that might be why, but I was like, I can't remember the last movie of his I watched.
In the old house, when the ghost with the most catches wind of this, he's like, Legacy sequel, baby. Here we go. First of all, we'll get right to it. Michael Keaton. He's still amazing. Like, he gets some backstory in here. It's not just the backstory.
My sense of humor is fine. Shush.
It's how That was close. It's how Michael Keaton tells it that makes it gold. I don't know where the script ends and the ad-libbing begins, or even if there was any ad-libbing, but there's such a natural, seamless flow to the execution. That's what matters. He doesn't even have that much screen time in this movie, as was the case with the first movie. But it's a classic case of you don't have to have a lot of screen time in order to steal the show. Every scene with Michael Keaton in this movie was amazing. I don't know the exact screen time count in terms of minutes, but I'll say solid 15-20 minutes of comedy right there. The dude's just great. Also, as an old soul, I do appreciate the love of practical effects in here. For nothing else, just in execution, it keeps this film feeling like it's in the same universe as the previous film.
I like practical effects. That was something that I was like watching things on, is why shows look cheap now. And actually has a lot to do with a lot of the the way they hire people now. They make people do multiple jobs, so they don't have time to. And I feel like this is similar with why I do love practical effects, is because they put in the work.
Film. If you have the first film, props, makeup,
yeah, I prefer if you're going to use CGI or 3D or something, you combine it with practical, it looks so much better. It's so much easier, too, for the poor 3D guys.
Motion animation. And the sequel's a super CGI fest. It just makes the two feel disconnected. This movie has a lot of the same production design and effects that the previous film had. And I thought Jenna Ortega was great in this movie, too. I bring her up specifically because we've seen it before. A star gets shot into the superstardom stratosphere, and then they're just cast and everything, and you're like, what should they be? Like Chris Pratt, I maintain I love Chris Pratt, but he shouldn't voice everything. But Jenna Ortega so works.
Oh, he might be too nice. I'm actually not a fan of Chris Pratt in a lot of things. He is kind of the same guy and everything.
She fits right in. She was in Wednesday. It looked like she would fit in, but that's another point. She doesn't just play Wednesday again. Now, if you're going to have someone play the next generation of characters in this world, she's as solid a pick as you thought or hoped she would be. Some of the characters in the movie, not going to lie, came across as a bit
yeah, CGI should be subtle and used to fix mistakes you just can't reshoot.
Cartoony for me. Some of the characters in the first movie were eccentric, sure, but I felt it was eccentricity with a purpose, the allegory of classism going on there. Some characters in this movie were 30%
You've never
more
seen Beetlejuice? Damn, crazy.
Than I felt they were in the first.
I'm not listening to any songs right now,
Then
obviously.
there's this double-edged sword concept I'm going to run into here. Props to the film for not just basically being the first movie again. The first movie is quite literally perfect in terms of concept and how you introduce the audience to this Tim Burton afterlife world. So there's a part of me that appreciates the fact that this movie delves into more lore when it comes to, what is it, the Neither World? That's what the cartoon called it anyway, so that's what I
yeah,
call
a lot of people were talking about how there's like a cartoon on it, and they're like two very different, how the Beetlejuice in the cartoon is like Lydia's best friend, but in the movie, he's like a creepy fuck.
Get more lore because there's no need for a reintroduction. That said, this movie as a whole is convoluted as fuck. And it bummed me out. It was kind of a mess. In a world where when a reviewer claims a sequel has sequelitis, they will then do that annoying thing and compare the sequel to the first film, which is kind of exactly...
It's like funny goth quirkiness, where you're just kind of having a good time, and it has a good plot, revolving around death that's really interesting, and childhood and family.
What I'm about to do, just on the basis that the first film was
and
simple.
It's funny.
It was a thread that you could follow to the end. Couple dies, now they're ghosts. People have moved into their house. They don't want those people in their house. They're going to try to scare them away. In this movie, I'll try my best here. Delia Dietz is dealing with a death in the family. Lydia Dietz is dealing with tension between her and her daughter Astrid Dietz. Also love story / annoying guy who plays her manager. Her daughter Astrid starts this friendship with this boy in town. Now that the Dietzes are back in town, the ghost with the most gets wind of this, so he wants back in on the action. Then Monica Bellucci plays a soul-sucking ex, the likes of which there is no escape. We can all relate. She's literally sucking souls from people in the underworld like she's Soul Reaver Terminator or some shit. Then there's Willem Dafoe, who's investigating those underworld murders. Guess you can call him that. Weird thing is Monica Bellucci and Willem Dafoe in this movie are kind of like Galadriel and Radagast the Brown in the Hobbit movies. Take them out, and you still have a cohesive Hobbit film, so why are they there? Which people have actually done. Have you seen the M4?
I don't understand why they're so obsessed on pouring a drink at the same time with having so many plot lines going in a 2-hour movie. Like, it's not a fucking fantasy series with 10 episodes for the season. It's 2 hours, guys. Like, you don't need, like, a bajillion things happening. Yes. Chaos. Everything's fine.
Edit of The Hobbit, really impressive. You take
Yeah,
Monica
sorry, I
Bellucci
hit it
and
with the
Willem Dafoe
bottle.
out of this film, you
I
still
know,
have a
baby.
movie that 99% reaches the conclusion it reaches by the end. And for a while
Yeah, it's
in this
because I think-
movie, I remember thinking,
They're predicting too. They think they're writing for like the Gen Z audience that has no attention span or some shit, where they just make garbage.
to myself, yeah, but why are we here? What's the point? The point does rear its head about halfway through. Just saying, it was a lot of reliance on Michael Keaton to carry the film, especially the first half. Because fuck if anyone else knew what was going on. And in the end, that's the sentiment I'm left with. Michael Keaton's amazing, technology being what it is.
Imagine having to go halfway through to get there.
Is all of his scenes will be on YouTube eventually. As for the rest of the movie, like if you're a fan of this world and you just want to see more content in this world, you'll probably have a fun enough time with it. Then you'll get home, pop in the first movie and realize that's really all you need. I have seen a couple of comments in the comment sections or concerns asking about my new rating.
Yeah, but it's the same thing of like a lot of like media. Same with rich people think the average Joe is stupid. And that is what you're really finding in a lot of these movies. They're treating the audience like they're stupid. It's the same thing a lot of people complain like in other countries about Western movies is for some reason every writer director thinks Americans are stupid and they're like a big market. So they think they have to dumb everything down.
Thrown out there recently. Watch it when it comes out on streaming, and whether or not that's replaced, good time if you're drunk.
Never. Sleep
This
is
movie
super
would
important
probably
to me.
be a better time if you're drunk. Yeah, now it's a party. All right, so have you seen this? And if you haven't, are you excited? Are you pumped for it? Whatever you think, comment below, let me know. And as always, if you like what you've seen here and you want to see more, click right here to see more.
I didn't say they were actually stupid. I said companies think they're stupid. I didn't actually say they were stupid. They think they are. But they also think every viewer has to understand everything in the film to get it, which, no, you don't. Look at Starship Troopers. They're still discussing it to this day. Yeah, you know. That's my point. You don't have to understand everything about a film to like it. As a kid, a lot of the films I loved had, like, lots of layers that I didn't understand.